There were some very important and blunt messages that I needed to hear during my anxiety healing to supercharge my recovery. And friends, today I'm going to reveal these messages to you so that you can overcome the challenges, the humps, the setbacks that are coming with your anxiety recovery. Welcome to another important video. Please subscribe to this important channel. As well, if you want to learn more about the Health Anxiety University, click here or click the link in the description. So these messages, my friends, are blunt. They are messages that you necessarily probably don't want to hear, but you do need to hear them. Because if you are stuck in certain mental, emotional, physical patterns for long periods of time, we need to create a new attitude. We need to understand what's taking place more deeply so that we can overcome these types of challenges, my friends. And I want to get right into the first message that you need to hear today. And yes, these are blunt, but of course, they're always coming from a place of love. Message number one that you need to hear is that it's not necessarily hard to heal anxiety. You are just unpracticed in the elements that you need to begin practicing in order to start healing your anxiety. You know, I'll come up with posts on Instagram and social media platforms, and I'll always hear people say, it's really hard, really hard. You'll see a lot of comments, it's really hard, and sometimes they keep coming from the same people. And so words, ideas that you bring to the table, things that you write, things that you say, these are all commands to your subconscious mind and body. And when you're sending a command, you are literally saying that what the post is about is difficult, hard, and next to impossible for you to emulate and begin practicing. Therefore, it's not worth taking on the challenge. So please stop telling yourself and other people how hard a certain element of healing is, and understand that at the root of it all, you're just very unpracticed. When it comes to anxiety, anxiety tends to become very unconscious after some time because we become so well practiced around the elements that create anxiety. We have an irrational or intrusive thought that shows up, and automatically we begin feeding that thought with our focus and energy. Next thing you know, we start behaving in line with that idea. Next thing you know, it turns into an identity, an I am anxiety type of thing. And now you just have to understand that as much as you have been consciously and unconsciously practicing anxiety, right, and bringing that emotional state with you throughout the day, now all you have to start doing is practicing something else. And it can really be that simple. Of course, it's not easy at the start, but it can be that simple, okay? Blunt and loving message number two, my friends, is anything that connects to victimhood must be overridden with a new action, a new identity. I want you starting today to completely leave the bubble of victimhood and anything that feeds into it. And this could be certain people, it could be certain environments, it could be certain ideas that you tend to follow about yourself, it could be certain feelings that you get when you look into the mirror, and it could be certain posts and comments, as we mentioned on social media or the Health Anxiety University, which we do not allow, right? That's why it's such a successful and growing group. But you need to leave that state of victimhood and seeing yourself as a victim. This victimhood often comes because of past traumatic experiences. However, you need to understand that at this juncture in your life, you have the opportunity to create a new association, a new perception over what took place in your past. You can literally begin to imagine what you wanted to see happen back in the day instead. That's where my reframing videos come into play, where we go deep into the subconscious mind and we begin to eliminate those old perceptions and replace them. You are not a victim, okay? You are unpracticed in the elements of inner peace. And you, after some period of anxiety, don't even know who you really are. That's why it's so important for you to begin to take steps in line with curiosity around this healing journey. Who am I? It's not about who am I, I'll never get to that place, I'll be stuck with this forever. Those are the types of ideas that we tend to act on. Those are the types of ideas that tend to create a certain vibration that we put out into the world and therefore bring back into our life the same sorts of things. When you're a victim, you cannot see success. When you're a victim and you see yourself as a victim, you cannot tap into any kind of progress that you are making through anxiety or any kind of self-healing work. So it's important for you to understand that you cannot pay attention to things in the outside world that are good and positive because you identify with being a victim. Once you start identifying with someone who is on a natural and healing journey, somewhat of a purpose towards greater and bigger things, maybe helping other people in the future, then what tends to happen is you start to leave victimhood and you start to go, wow, I'm really curious about why that intrusive idea showed up. I'm curious around why that sensation continues to linger. I'm curious around why I feel anxiety right now prior to going into an uncertain environment or an unfamiliar environment. It is that level of curiosity that brings with it playfulness. And my friends, playfulness is the goal. If you can bring a certain element of curiosity and playfulness into your anxiety recovery as an attitude, I'm telling you, you are halfway there. Number 3, if you don't know how to do something, there is information that you are not aware of, or you are afraid to apply the information you know out of a fear of uncertainty. Again, I'll go back to the comments. There's a lot of people commenting saying, I don't know how, but how, but how, but how. Well, we live in an age where information is all around you. So the idea of how really doesn't make that much sense, because if you just start looking for the information, you're going to find it. And if you find it and start applying it and it starts to work for you, that's great. And if it doesn't work for you, then find new pieces of information, right? However, it's not just about the information that you don't know that may be contributing to your anxiety, but it's also the fear of applying that information, right? Because we're afraid of leaving what tends to feel like a very safe zone, a safety place. Often worry becomes like a best friend, right? And once you've made such a connection and created such congruence, rapport with a best friend, it's very difficult to leave that relationship, good or bad, because it's feeding into certain human needs that you naturally need. So worry, in a sense, makes us feel protected. Worry makes us feel safe. Worry feels like we can turn to something internal if something's going to go wrong, right? Worry has become like a companion of sorts. So this can be one of those things that are holding you back and allowing you to constantly say the word how. How do I do this? How do I do that? Well, look deeper, because often it's not about the how, but it's about the fear of applying what you already know. If that could be the case for you, be honest, comment below, and let me know. Number 4. Leave environments and any social gatherings that keep you in a low vibration, but do make you feel connected to others, right? So we're talking support groups, local meetups, these sorts of things can be very, very helpful, right? But it's up to you to reflect on certain things and say, you know what? It's keeping me in a low vibration. I have that friend, and all that friend wants to do is to discuss how difficult their day was, or how difficult the upcoming event is going to be, right? Or how much they have to do. This sort of thing. It keeps you in a low vibration. And if you're in a low vibration, you cannot see yourself as someone who is actually lucky, right? And the people that see themselves as being lucky are living above the middle ground in terms of vibrational status, right? They are more so in the positive place. They are optimistic about things. And as an anxiety sufferer for me, for years, I saw myself as being unlucky. I'm so unlucky for dealing with anxiety. That is, until I started to recognize that there were people out there dealing with incredibly debilitating diseases and illnesses, and hunger and shelter issues, and physical abuse and this sort of thing. And I started to go, man, well, maybe I'm not so unlucky. Maybe I'm kind of lucky to experience the elements of this anxiety as messages from my lower self and my little me. And now maybe I have to really start to pay more attention to these things rather than trying to get rid of them all the time, right? Because back in the day with anxiety, I was like, symptom, get rid of it, right? Distract from it. Turn the volume up in the car louder. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't want to deal with this right now. And when you start ignoring these elements of anxiety, they tend to persist and they get really, really loud. That's why you notice that with anxiety symptoms, they can travel from one body part to the next, right? And you're going, where did that tightness in my leg come from? Where did that headache come from? Where did the shoulder tension come from? Where did the heart palpitations come from? Well, your lower self is very opportunistic. It really does everything in its power to keep you in a familiar state, a familiar emotional state. So if your familiar emotional state is happiness and joy and gratitude and such, and a sense of ease, where you move through challenges with laughter and such, lower self and inner child's going to go, wow, well, okay, well, this seems to be working. Let's do everything in our power internally and externally to get them focused on things on the outside world that keep them in a state of positivity, right? And optimism and feeling lucky. So you need to leave environments, leave things that are keeping you from healing, keeping you from recovery, keeping you in a state of being filled with physical tension, okay? Reflect on that. Number 5, final, blunt, and loving message of the day, right? Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Start to see that it is your own little me or lower self that feels sorry for themselves. And it's you that they need to guide them out. You need to understand that when it comes down to it, you can begin to see yourself as 2 different people. I tend to see myself as 3 different people, 3 different perceptions and ways of seeing the world and such, but let's stick to 2. You have this lower self or little me, this subconscious mind body that tends to enact based on past memory and past perceptions and consistent action. And you've got a higher self that is connected to playfulness and spontaneity and intuition, right? So we have to stop feeling sorry for ourselves and understand that the part of you that feels sorry for themselves isn't you today. It's you from yesterday. And it's up to you today, conscious you, to guide that part of you that feels sorry for themselves. So when you get a symptom, the symptom is saying some kind of a message. There's some kind of a message being relayed to you consciously today. And once you start to put yourself into the perspective, into the attitude of, I need to guide my nervousness. I need to guide the stress that I'm feeling. I need to guide my anxiety. Then what tends to happen is you start to take power back from your little me. Little me, your lower self, is no longer deciding what something means. It's no longer taking control over your actions and what you do throughout the day and how you do it. You're starting to go, okay, I feel that, right? And you're going, as I feel that, can I sit with it to gain a deeper message? Yes, absolutely. We would like that. We would like that you finally acknowledge the anxiety that is coming from little me. And big me goes, okay, I'm starting to get this. It's a feeling of building a relationship with someone that you've been out of contact with for a long time, right? And when you can bring this attitude with you on a daily basis, when you can bring this with you, everything starts to change. Because you start to leave a place of franticness, get rid of it, distract it, I don't want it, and you start to go into a place of compassion, understanding, and true inner love. And love isn't about loving the world. Love is about loving the parts of you that are trying to get your attention through anxiety. That's a more than anxiety moment. So my friends, these are the blunt and loving anxiety recovery messages that I wanted to share with you today. And we discussed a few things. I hope they spoke to you. And if they did, comment below. Let me know which part of this video spoke to you the deepest. And of course, we are ready to welcome you in to the Health Anxiety University. Your healing, your recovery starts today at the Health Anxiety University, my friends. The link is in the description. Click that link, and I look forward to seeing you in our weekly powerful meetups and an amazing, loving, compassionate, and safe community where you can heal your health anxiety for good. Have a wonderful day. Remember that you are more